Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today we are going to start building this guy right here. This is a CBOT 2 handle on an MHX NSJ 872 blank. I actually built this rod when I did the CBOT 2 rod handle build. And I had a lot of people ask me how I did the rest of the rod, because in that video I showed how to put the CBOT 2 handle on, and then I did the guides and everything else after the fact, and then took it out fishing because I really just was talking about the CBOT 2 handle and how I wanted to try it out. So today, because I had some people reach out to me after that video, they said, hey, I want to see how you put the guides on. So we're building another one of the exact same rods because I really like that NSJ 872 with the CBOT 2 handle. And I need another one of these for my next event on Leech Lake, where I think I'm going to be doing some smallmouth fishing. I wanted something just a tad bit heavier than what I normally would use for smallmouth, because that lake specifically has some absolute giant smallmouth. And with some of the different techniques that I'm going to be fishing, where I could potentially be shaking a minnow, I could be throwing like a wacky rig, I could be throwing a creature style bait, like one of the dice style things. The 872 is just a really good model for it. So that's a 7.3. It's a light medium power spinning blank. Just a really good all-purpose, kind of a, I wouldn't say it's a super finessey rod. It's got a little bit more backbone to it, fast action, just a great blank. So today we're gonna put this in the old hand wrapper here, and we're gonna put some guides on. So I'm gonna show you how I put the guides on, maybe give you a couple of pointers with respect to finishing this rod, and then we're gonna take it out on the water and do a little fishing with it. So the first thing I'm doing is just marking where I want my guides to go. One thing with the spinning guides is they lean forward, so you want to mark where the actual center of the ring is versus where like the foot is actually going to meet the blank. And I'm cheating in this case because I'm using another 872 that I've built. So this is just a simple way to do it. Once you've already built the rod, you can quickly take one of the other rods and measure it up the same way. So I'm just doing this real fast. I've already marked where the spine was. I did that before I put the handle on. And in this case, we're just marking where all the guides are going to go. Simple process, really easy to do when you've already got another rod built. Next step is I like to take my drop shot hook keeper, which is what I like to put on my spinning rods. I'm just going to glue this onto place. I've just got some rod tip glue. So I heated up the foot, and I like to put mine right on the back of the rod. So it would be the opposite of where the reel handle is going to be placed. So you can see I've got it on the back, reel handle here. That way, if you get a big loop that comes off your spinning reel, it doesn't catch on it nearly as bad. So I like to put them on the back. Then before I thread that on, I like to go ahead and put my decals on that shows what rod it is. Really simple process for that is to take a piece of masking tape. Let's see if I can get a piece off here. So I like to take a piece of masking tape, and then I like to just run it over the back of that decal. And then this is going to allow me to be able to put it on without getting fingerprints on it or handling it in a manner that just kind of makes it a sloppy job. So I'll put it on the back of the decal like that, and I'm just going to peel it off. So now the decal, I don't know if you can see it, but it's on the tape, and now I can use the tape to hold it. And I'm just going to put this right in line with where that hook keeper is. And being that it's on the tape, I can line it up so it's nice and straight. Just put it down. And then you just peel the tape right off. You can see I've got the decal on there now. You don't have to worry about any just getting any fingerprints on it or any bubbles or anything like that. Just a simple little tip. And now, so I've got that. I've actually got 2 decals, so I want to put the Elite X one on there as well. So I'm going to take another piece of tape and run it on. Peel it off so you can see it on there again. I'm just going to line this one up. Peel it off. So we've got our decals on. So now I can do my thread work and thread down both sides of that decal. We're going to put epoxy over all that. Not a huge thing, but the decal is one of those things, if you do it sloppily, it actually doesn't look good. So now we can start doing our thread. I'm going to put one threading over the hook keeper and the side of the decal, and then one more on the other side just to give it a finished look. All right, so we're going to start threading this. What I always do is take the first wrap. I start about right at the foot of the guide or the drop shot, and I wrap it so that the tag end goes one wrap away from the direction I want it to go. I want the thread to go towards the hook keeper, and then I do 3 wraps over the guide or the foot that I'm doing. So that just allows me, when I start actually turning the hand wrapper, it locks the thread in because it starts wrapping over the 3 threads that wrapped over the foot. So I just like to get started where I've got my wraps. They're relatively tight, but I'm going to take the burnishing tool and actually push them together once I get over the tag. So now I've got over the tag. I do another extra wrap, and then I cut that tag end off about as close as I can get. You'll have a little piece overhanging. Get rid of the tag. Then I take my burnishing tool, and I'll start doing my wraps. But I'm going to push the first wraps tight just to make sure everything is lined up really nice. Knowing that it's locked in now. Alright, so now I'll just start working my way up over the foot to the point where I get about, I'm going to say, 1/8 of an inch from the end of the hook keeper. In this case, I like to go about as far up the hook keeper as I can. And the reason for that just being that the hook keeper, a drop shot hook keeper, has just got 1 foot. So I feel like the more thread I can put up it, the more I'll get it locked in pretty good. So we're just going to keep working it up right now. I will say the goal right now is just to do this, the thread work around the drop shot hook keeper as well as the labels. And then I got to go start making dinner. So I'm going to finish this a little bit later. I'm supposed to actually cut the lawn too, so I don't know that I'll get to this tonight, but I'll get to it, finishing it up either tonight or tomorrow most likely. So now I've wrapped, I'm about 1/8 of an inch away, probably a little less than that, but I'm going to take my pull through. A pull through is just a loop with like a bead on the end, and the bead just allows you to pull it. This is going to be how I pull my tag end under my thread. So I just slide it up under that last loop that I did and just continue then to finish the thread work. So I'm going to run this all the way up. And I'm choosing purple on this because purple for me is the 872 model, the NSJ 872. So I want to stay consistent with the other ones that I've built. It's the only rod I have that has some purple threading in it. So in this case, I've gone up about as far as I want. I'll do one more wrap. Okay, so now once I've gotten to the point where I've got the thread up as far as I want, I'm gonna put my finger on the thread, loosen the tension on the hand wrapper, cut the thread from the spool. I like to take a pair of tweezers, go through the loop on my pull through so that I can easily grab the tag end of my thread. I'm holding that tight, grab the bead on the pull through, pull it so that it's right about ready to go under the thread, and then I'm going to cut that tag about as short as I can get it. Put my finger on top and give the pull through a quick little pop. And you can see that that tag end now is pulled under the thread. Really don't have to do any touch up on that. That is a beautiful wrap. Now we'll move to the other side, and I kind of cheated a little bit in this case. I just had the hand wrapper, or the reel seat of the Suga 2 resting on the hand wrapper, which is why you probably saw it going up and down just a little bit. But so now I'm just going to do a real quick, this is just going to lock in my label on the other side and just kind of match. So we're going to do 1 wrap away, 3 towards the end of the rod, and I can start turning the old hand wrapper, get my position perfect. You want the thread to be pulling towards or away from the direction that you're actually going. That really allows the wrap to be a nice tight wrap. And it's only got to be a really small degree away. And sometimes it takes a couple of wraps just to figure out exactly where you want that positioning, but just tightening up the first couple wraps. And I'm gonna continue to wrap this so that it matches the first thread work that I just did in terms of length. Get rid of my tag and just finish it up. Get to the point where you need to put your pull through in, so I'm going to do that right now. So I'm basically just eyeballing this right now to make sure that it's roughly the same length, but you can get like various measuring devices. I've got this guy right here. What is this? I think it's a caliper is what it's called. So I'll just give a quick measure just to be roughly in the same ballpark. I'm not that worried, but it was a couple of wraps off. Oop, came up over. Okay, so we're gonna finish that wrap, put some tension on top of my thread, loosen the tension from the spool, cut it off, grab my tweezers, pull my tag end through the pull through loop, grab the bead, pull it tight so I can take my finger off, cut the tag end as short as I can, put a finger back on the thread, give it a pop. Now that one, there's a little bit of thread that popped through, so I'm just going to take a flame and you put it on there real quick and that thread will melt perfect. Take my burnishing tool, I can kind of bump that down into place. Clean it up. And we'll have our first 2 threads. So now we've got our label on, we've got our drop shot hook keeper on, and now we can start working up the guides, which I will get to in just a few, well, not a few minutes, but for you guys, it'll be right back now. Well, we are back. It is the next day morning. I was unable to come down and work on it last night, which is one of the cool things about rod building, right? You can do it at your leisure. So we got up a little early this morning. We're gonna start the old process again. I'm gonna show you guys how to put another, to do one more wrap, and then I'll finish up the rest of the guides because nothing changes. So in this case, I'm using a size 20 here. I go a size 20, I'll drop down to a 12 and then a 6, and then the rest of the running guides will be a 5. So wrapped once around, the first wrap goes away from where I'm trying to go, and then the next 3 wraps are going to be towards the direction that I want the wrap to go, so around the guide. And I'm just gonna turn the hand wrapper until I've got it wrapping over the wraps that I just did, so that I can then cut my tag end off. Just like that. Push them together just a little bit to tighten it all up. So this is the biggest guide, running guide, or guide that I'm putting on the rod. So from that standpoint, it takes a little bit longer, and they're a little bit bigger, so they're just a little bit harder to work with, I guess. You can do a couple of things to make it a little easier. A lot of people will take like a Dremel tool, and they'll actually taper off the foot to make it a sharper point, which allows the thread to go up and up the start of the foot easier. I do that sometimes, but if most of the pieces you get now come pretty good in terms of the taper, so it's not a huge issue. I've had more issues with like hook keepers than anything from that standpoint. So we're just gonna thread this all the way up until we're about 1/8 of an inch from the end, and then we'll put our pull through under. And then we'll finish this one up. Really does not take long. You know, this again, these are like several times longer than what a running guide is, but it's just not a real long process at all. It takes me, to do a whole rod, to thread everything, it takes me about an hour. If I'm not filming, if I just sit down and do it. So we're about 1/8 of an inch to the end there, so I'm going to take my pull through now, put the pull through under that last thread, and finish wrapping. But it takes me about an hour to do the handle and the thread work, and then about a half hour to do the epoxy work. And the rest of the time is just drying time. One more wrap. Perfect. Okay. So now we've got it done. I'm putting my finger on top of my threads to create some tension. I loosen up the thread, go into the wrapper, cut it off. I take tweezers, put it through the loop of my pull through. I grab my tag end. Once it's through the loop, I can then release the finger because I'm holding the tag end, pull the pull through tight. So now I can let go. I can do whatever because the pull through is pulled tight. I'm going to cut it off as close as I can get it. Take a finger, put it back on for tension. I'm pushing down pretty hard just because I don't want any threads to pull. I don't want any threads to loosen up, which would mean you'd have to do the whole wrap again. Grab my pull through, give it a quick pop. That pulls the tag end up and under. In this case, we've got, it looks like a few tiny threads. So I'll take a flame. Now I don't put it right on it. I'm actually off to the side. So I turn my rod so that the few little pieces of thread tag that are sticking out are closest to me. And then I take it, I'm not under the rod, I'm just off to the side. And what you'll see is that that thread will just shrivel right up. It just like pulls in, and then I just take my burnishing tool and rub over the top. Just make sure my ends are nice and tight. And that's a perfect wrap right there. You can see it. Hopefully it centers in on it, and good to go. And then you also see, so I still have my mark. I just want to point out again that this mark right here is where I wanted the eye, not necessarily where to put the foot. So when you measure it, you want to make sure your measurements are done for the eye, not necessarily the foot. So at that point, I've just got a piece of twine here. So I'm just going to remove that. And I find that the twine is like the best thing that I've found to remove that China marker. And now we're good to go. So I'm going to do the rest of them, then I'll show you the epoxy. So we've just finished doing the rod. You can see all the guides that have been put on. If I run it down the table, the whole rod has been done. Tip's been put on. So now we're using our Flex Coat 2-part epoxy. I put equal quantities. I put 2.5 milliliters into a little stir cup, stirred it all together. You want to make sure it is fully stirred, and you want to make sure it is equal quantities, because if it's not equal quantities, it's either will not cure or will not cure right. So anytime applying the epoxy, you just want to make sure you put a nice equal coat on. Some people will put 2 coats on, some people put 3 coats on, some people put a single heavy coat. I'll do what's necessary. I like my threads to be completely covered, but I don't necessarily want it to be too heavy. So if I can get away with 1 little heavier coat, I generally prefer that. If I have to do 2 coats, 2 lighter coats, then I'll go ahead and do that as well. So I'm just going to do a couple of them here, and then I'll show you really what you want to do is just apply a little bit of heat on the outside just to make sure that you remove any air bubbles. Simple process to do. I'm just kind of really just manipulating the epoxy to push it where I want it. You know, it's not really like I'm painting, I'm just pushing. Okay, so once you've done a little bit, or done 1 or a couple, I like to take just a little heat and I put it on the outside. I'm not putting it underneath, and I'm just kind of waving it back and forth, and you'll see what happens is it'll smooth out really good. If there's any little tiny micro bubbles in it, the bubbles will raise to the surface and pop out. And it just heats the epoxy up, so it becomes much more liquidy, and it will run around a little bit, but you can again just watch it as it continues to dry and rotate. It'll kind of reform and get the shape that you want it. But now it's just a matter of going down the rod, applying this. This usually takes me maybe a half hour to do a full rod, and then I like to let it dry for a full day. Okay, well, we've got the whole rod epoxied up. It's looking all nice and shiny, if we can get it to focus. So we're just gonna let that dry. We're gonna give it overnight, and we'll get it out tomorrow. I like to give it roughly 24 hours, but you don't need quite that. I just like to make sure everything is cured completely. Now the fun part gets to start. Yeah. Not a giant hinkster. Yeah, it is. He's skinny.
Can I weigh that one?
No, we're not weighing him. Well, the rod loaded up good on that. Skinny river fish on the Wacky rig. The NSJ 872 is the Wacky rig rod that I love to use.
My finger.
It's the one that I like to use for a little heavier minnows. It's just a really good all-purpose rod. Just one of my favorites. And anytime I bring them out, you know, I build a rod, I like to use it like I mentioned first, and just make sure that the rod itself can, you know, that there's no defects. You know, you never know. You build a rod, maybe you scratched it or something. So I just like to make sure that it's functioning, and everything felt good with that. Well, I feel pretty confident in this rod being good to go. I do want to just state that if it's something that you're interested in, rod building that is, you can reach out to mudhole.com. They will answer all the questions you have. They have all the parts that you need. It's just a great resource for us. The rod building aspect is not nearly as hard as everyone thinks it should be or could be. It's just something that is extremely rewarding, and at the same time I think it just makes you a better angler overall. So if it's something you're interested in, I highly suggest giving it a try. And if you enjoyed the build to catch video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow.